Good class. So in the car wheels activity, you are going to create a car that has moving wheels, and the car will be moving and the wheels will be moving independently of each other. And the way this works is we actually have a symbol inside another symbol, and this is quite an important concept to get for this activity. So as a demonstration, you can see here that I have a green sort of poly shape, and I also have a blue square. So I've actually made those there separate. If you look at my library on the right side, you can see I have two symbols. So I've got the blue square and I've got the green poly shape. So on the poly shaped layer, this one here, I am moving that across the screen with a motion tween. But if I double click on it to go into the symbol, you can actually see there's two things inside here. There's the green poly and there's the blue square. So inside it, I've got another motion tween for the blue square. And what that does is it just rotates the square like that. So that's inside the shape. So it's going to keep looping that. And then if I go back to scene one, this one I'm moving it across the screen. So it's going to do both. It's going to do the movement of the square and the movement of the poly shape as one. So that's kind of the background of how it's going to work. So let's have a look at the road scene car wheel activity. I'm going to go File, New. I'm going to set it all up. It doesn't give us any indication in the activity of size, so I'm just going to use the defaults there. And here we are. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I've saved it. So you're going to go File, Save As, and you will save it wherever you want. Just call it My Car, My Road Scene, or My Car, or something like that. I don't mind what you call it, and then click Save. And that will save it up for you. Then what we're going to do, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to modify this document so that we've got the stage being blue, because we're just going to use that for our background. There are a number of ways that you can do this. The easiest one is if you just click anywhere on the stage, and you go to your Properties tab. Down here it says Stage. You can click on that, and you can change the color. So I'm going to go for I want a nice light sort of blue sky. So I'm going to pick that one. So my stage is now blue. Right, what is next? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the grass. So my layer here in my timeline, I'm going to double click it. I'm going to rename it to grass. All right, and then we need to make some grass. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my, let's go to the rectangle tool. I'm going to change the fill color. It's a nice kind of like foresty grass color. I actually don't want a stroke. A stroke just means outline. I don't want that on this. So instead of having a black stroke, I'm going to go up to here, this one here, where it is transparent. And that means I won't have that. Right, so I'm going to have quite a lot of grass. It's going to cover most of my scene. So I'm going to have it sort of like that. That's going to be my grass. I'm going to use my selection tool up here. And then you can see how if I sort of just go on the edge of it, it changes that little curvy bit. That lets me sort of curve up my grass a little bit. There we go. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? That looks like a little sort of mound or something like that. Now, if you want to, you can add a little bit more in this. You can add, some circular shapes to make kind of like more hilly things or something like that. You don't have to. That's sort of up to you. I'm going to move on to the next bit, which is making the road. So over here, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call that layer road. And what I want for the road is I really want sort of a grayish road. So there we go. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm going to set it to a gray, and then I'll just draw my road. Something sort of like that, I think. Use my selection tool to maybe bend that up a little bit, because I sort of want my road to be a little bit bendy. There we go. That looks a little bit better. That looks more like a road that I'd want to have going over the hill. So that's my grass and my road all set up. I guess I could put a line through the middle of my road. So I'm going to select my line tool here. Select white, the middle of the road, and on the right side, I'm actually going to change the stroke. I think one's probably a little a little thin. So I'm going to go with a stroke of maybe like 3, see how that looks. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key. And you can see I've made a mistake there. You can see my line is black, but really what I want it to be is I want it to be white. So I change my stroke to white. Hold down Shift and try that again. That looks a little bit better. Use my selection tool. Same as I did before. Wait until it goes like that and just kind of bend it up. There we go. That looks good. So that is my road all done. I'm going to lock those. See here with the little lockers, I'm going to lock those layers away. So now I can't edit those. See how I can't really select anything on them. That's just going to make sure I don't accidentally mess with them later on. And now I'm going to actually go about making my car. So new layer here in the bottom left of the timeline. I'm just going to call that car. Now I believe in the written activity, it makes sort of like a family wagon kind of looking car. But I'm going to go with something a bit different. I'm going to have no stroke, and I want maybe a red. And I'm just going to start using these shapes to kind of draw out what I want my car to look like. So maybe start like that, and then maybe like that. That's sort of going to be the basic shape of my car. And this might take you, it might take you a little while to figure it out. That's completely fine. That's not a problem at all. There we go. That's sort of the basic shape of it. And then I can start kind of using my selection tool to bend things around like that. I grabbed the corner there, see how it's gone for that kind of like right angle shape. And then like that. And you can sort of like make your car however it is you want to make it. And that's up to you to get the basic shape of that car going. And one of the easiest or most useful way to start editing that in detail is to cut out things using shapes. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my rectangle tool. And I'm just going to swap it back to black and white by clicking on this. It doesn't really matter what color you use as long as it's not the same color that you used for your car. I can use this to cut out stuff. And let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to make a shape here to cut out the back of the truck. Like sort of, like that. And then I'm going to use my selection tool. Double click and grab that, and if I take it off now, see how it's cut that off? And that is because at the moment, if I go into any of my shape tools, you can see I've got object drawing mode turned off. So anytime that I draw a new shape over an existing shape on the same layer, it's going to merge those. So once I delete it, it cuts out that. And I can use this to do things like my wheel arches, right? So I'm going to make an oval here. I'm holding Shift to make it a nice round oval. Use my selection tool, double click it, move it on. I want it about there, and move it off. Oh, no, apologies. I need to click off it so it becomes part of it. Then double click it to select it again, and then move it off. And you can see now it's made that. I'll use the same one in the back. Click off it, double click it, move it off. There you go. There are my wheel arches. I can delete that circle. I don't need it anymore. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this to sort of make shapes that you want for your car and things like that, but don't spend too long on it because otherwise you won't get time for the rest of it. The rest of it is sort of the part that is actually really important. So there we go, that's the basic shape for my car, and that's how it's going to look. So let's move on to what we're going to do next. Now that I've got the basic shape, I need to convert this to a symbol. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it, right click, convert to symbol. And I'm just going to call this shape, I'm just going to call it car. Make sure that you're on graphic here. I know that some people use movie clips, but I prefer to use graphic for most things. And then I'm going to click OK. So now this whole car is a graphic, which is good. If I go to my library, you can see that the car has been added into my library. I want to start editing that car now. Well, I want to put wheels on it actually. But like with this earlier, the part that moves, that loops, i.e. the wheel, I actually want it to be inside the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on that symbol to go inside it. You can tell I'm inside the symbol A because the background's gone sort of a little bit grayed out. And you can see here, I'm not just on scene 1 anymore, I'm in the car on scene 1. So I'm going to rename the layer here. I'll call that car underscore body. Underscore body. Oh, underscore not dash. There we go. So that's the layer for my car. Now I need layers for my wheels. I'm going to make 2 more layers. I'm going to call one wheel underscore front, and the other one I'm going to saw wheel underscore back. So I've got 3 layers now. I don't really want to edit the body, so I'm going to lock that, and I'll work on the back wheels for now. So I'll lock the front as well. So I'm just going to work on the wheels back layer for now. What I want to do here is I want to make my wheels. So I'm going to use the zoom tool to zoom in just a little bit. To make my wheels, I'm probably going to be using the oval tool. And I'm going to give it a black stroke. I think I'll make my wheels like a grey. Let me just have a look at what that looks like. Yeah, that's going to be fine. So you can either draw your wheels sort of like that and then move them if you want. There we go. There's one wheel. That looks good enough to me. I'm okay with that. I also want to add something in here so that I know when the wheel is moving. So I'm going to go to my zoom tool, just go a little bit further in. I'm going to hold about the center. I'm going to hold down Alt to make it sort of come from the center. There we go. That looks center-ish, maybe a little bit to the right. Ish, there, it's close enough. I'm just going to give it some spokes by using the line tool. So one like that, one sort of like that, one kind of like that. That's not perfect, but it's fine for us. So that's what my wheel is going to look like. And you don't have to add spokes, you can add anything else to show that the wheel is moving. That's the main thing. So now that I've got that sorted out, I'm going to use my selection tool, highlight the whole thing, right click it, and I'm going to convert that to a symbol as well. It wants to be a graphic, and I'm just going to call it wheel. So there we go. Now I've got the car in my library, and I have the wheel in my library, which is good. That is what I want. Now my job is to animate this wheel, because if I was to test this at the moment, if I just went to Control and then Test, you would see a car, but it's not moving and the wheels aren't moving, which is not a particularly good animation. So let's look at that. Now there are 2 ways I could do this. I can make both wheels on different layers, and I could animate both those layers, but I don't like that option because it means that I have to animate 2 things, and that's just one extra thing that could go wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to animate the wheel, and then I'm going to use the wheel twice. So we're going to go into the wheel symbol, double click on it. There we go, and we know we're in the wheel symbol because we've got scene 1 car wheel, and the car's been sort of grayed out. And you can see that I've already here, I've added some frames. So I just right clicked on this and went insert frame at about frame 10. I want about 10 frames of it circling around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the whole thing, and if I try to add a motion tween now, I went right click on the timeline, create motion tween, it's going to tell me, hey, this isn't a symbol. And you might be thinking, yeah, but it is a symbol. And that's true, but we're inside it. So at the moment, it's just a shape. It's just a bunch of different stuff. See, if I'm clicking on it, I can move around like different parts of it and things like that. It's just a bunch of different things. If I went back to the car, then yes, it's a shape. But when I double click it, yes, it's a symbol. But when I double click to go inside of it, it's just the shapes. So I actually need to make this another symbol so that I can animate it. So I'm going to convert to symbol. I'm just going to call that one wheel underscore animate, something like that. And I could, if you want to, you can see that I've already changed the name of the layer to that as well, wheel underscore animated. Right, so now that that is, and you can see it as in my library, now that that's a symbol, I can right click on here and I can go create motion tween, which turns that blue as we expect. So rather than trying to grab it and turn it around, things like that, I'm just going to click on the layer name here, wheel animated. That's right there. And then I'm going to go to my properties tab, which is here. And you'll see that while I'm clicked on that, this property tab is different. And I'm going to choose rotate. And within those 10 frames, let's say, I don't know, like twice I want it to rotate, something like that. And if I just click on there, I hit enter. Yeah, that looks about right. That looks okay to me. So I just want to, it's going to rotate like that. I'm just hitting enter to play it. You can see it's like that. And if I turn this button here, if I turn the loop on, drag it out to the whole thing and hit enter, that's sort of what it's going to look like. In fact, we can find out in a second if that's working. We're going to go back to car now. If I ran it at the moment, if I tested it, it would seem like it's not working. You can see that when I run it here, my wheel's not turning, and you might be thinking, what's going wrong? My wheel's mucking up. Now the reason for that is if I go back into my car again, my car wheel, sorry, into my wheel, you'll see that I've got this running for 10 frames. It's going to do that for 10 frames. But when I go back to car, I've only got 1 frame. So what I need to do is I'm going to unlock these so that I can edit them, highlight those by holding left click, right click, and go insert frame. So now it can run the whole 10 frames. Great. Now lock car body back up, and I'm going to lock wheel back. Now I just need another animated wheel, which I'm going to pull in so that I can use that. Now you remember that this one here is the one called wheel. Okay, lock that back up. So grab wheel, pull that in. Oh, if I go click on this little arrow and go show all, pull that in onto here. If I'm on the right layer, see, even Mr. Black screws up. I want to be clicked onto wheel front. Then drag in my wheel shape. Do make sure it's the wheel one you're grabbing, not wheel animated. You want to grab in wheel. And I can just position that. I can use the arrow keys to do some fine positioning. So yeah, that looks about right. So if I go control and test now, we can see I should have, oh, I've got a car that's not moving. Oh dear, that is not good for me, is it? You can see the reason for that, if I go back to scene 1 finally, is I've only got 1 frame there. So I've got 10 frames there, I've got 10 frames for, if I unlock these, 10 frames for my wheel, 10 frames for my car, I'll those back up. I've only got 1 frame for my scene, which seems a bit silly. I actually want my scene to run for a while. I actually want it to run for like 4 or 5 seconds. We'll start with like 4 seconds or something like that. So I'm going to highlight those, click and hold to do that, right click and insert frame. Okay, so that should run it quite a lot. So if I try this again, let's see what it looks like now. There we go. I can see my wheels are turning. My car's not actually going anywhere, but my wheels are working, so that's something. So now that I've got this whole shape with the wheels working inside of it here, this car, I can animate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my car, I sort of want it to start here-ish, I think. And I'm going to right click that layer and create a motion tween there. And this is the sort of thing you've done before. So you click on layer 1, get it where you want it to be. Then I'm going to click on the final layer, which looks like, sorry, final frame, my apologies. Frame 96 it looks like, about for 4 seconds. And I'm going to drag it along to where I want it to be at the end. I want it to be off the screen at the end. So now, if I click enter, you can see it's going to go across like that. And that's most of it done. The last thing I want to do is I'm not very happy with sort of it going through there. So I'm just going to hover over the line that it's produced for me. I'm just going to say around about 2 seconds, that's halfway. I really want that to curve up more like that. There we go. So now if let's do it properly, let's go control test. You can see that I've got my car moving and my wheels which are inside of it moving as well. So that is how we do that activity. Hopefully that goes okay for you. Make sure you're following along properly. You should have, by the end of it, you should have 3 layers on this first layer, one of which has a motion tween. Inside the car, if I double click on it, I have 3 layers, wheel back, wheel front, and car body. And then on those wheel back and wheel front layers, I've got this one here, the wheel. This one here, sorry, the wheel. And then if I double click into the wheel, I've got it 10 frames animated. That is car body activity. I guess good luck with finishing that off.